intellectually. So, unless you are like Jonathan Edwards and Albert Einstein and Carl Sagan or whoever, and can take an idea and for an hour or two hold it and turn it like Dr. Ferguson said, I agree with him. That is not the prerogative of a genius. But I have to do it on paper. I cannot do it. I think of the shutters banging and the cars going by and food, and my mind won't hold an idea without a pencil in my hand. So, know thyself, brother, and proceed. Go ahead, the back. I don't, but I'll tell you who can tell you. Mark Knoll has just written a history of Princeton, and you can find, I'm sure, a very profound treatment of that move. It's a troubling phenomenon, I agree, Tom, to see what happens, what seems to always happen with my own alma mater. I don't know what might happen there, but is a tragic thing, which is why I suppose there have to be constantly new schools being created, like there is in Florida now. 2 of them, right there. I don't know where the hands are coming first. Let's just start here. Go ahead, David.
Tell us some more about how David influenced.
No, I was looking behind you, but go ahead. We'll jump back in.
Influenced John, his brother, to catch a vision for the work. Ruth Tucker has written that John actually was more successful number-wise than David.
My only exposure to John is the little I read in the introduction here by Pettit, who says that John took over the work in Cross-Weekson, pressed on till he was 60 years old, that the work prospered, and that's it. I mean, so I just don't know what else to say. John, he had 2 favorite brothers, John and the other younger one, Israel, maybe, I'm not sure what his name was, but they both were evidently very warm and successful ministers.
That speaks to something of himself, no doubt. He tried out for continuity, and no doubt they saw something take over his brother's work. He knew a lot.
The people in his own day did not regard Brainerd as a weird, sick guy. When we read these kinds of personal testimonies and the self-deprecation, we Americans, from our psychological perspective, immediately indict him with sickness. They didn't, and it may not have been as sick as it looks to us. We have been told to esteem ourselves so consistently for so many years that anything that looks like the lack of self-esteem looks sick. Now, I suspect there was a measure of sickness in Brainerd, but not as much as the average reader today would think. Probably. Now, David, Lindy?
That was a question, John. What do you think that David Brainerd has to teach our generation about self-esteem, particularly the way the parallels with his struggle and the enormous struggle that so many face today to break down the family and tremendous inner discipline, that come out of that early family life and that sort of thing?
Oh, there's so many things he has to teach us. Community. Oh, he just cried out for Christian community. He loved friends. He loved to talk with people. If there'd only been somebody with him to say, come on, David, quit it. It didn't go that bad yesterday. You have a very bad perspective. It was good. They listened to you. Somebody to give him. We are not made to function alone in the ministry. We will not judge our ministries correctly if we're left alone. We will either be excessively proud or excessively despairing. We must get the orientation of friends. So there's a first thing to learn. Partnership and community in the ministry to give us balance. And oh my goodness, that's so important. A second thing is we must learn to use... No, that's not the right way to say it. We must learn to perceive our successes as the works of grace and delight in them. Delight in them. So that, and he does that periodically. He's just very, very hesitant, I think, to say anything that would come close to looking like he is extolling himself. And we must find language that can say, it was a wonderful service yesterday. The Lord blessed. I felt freedom. I thank the Lord for His goodness to me as a minister. I'm not perfect. I made mistakes, but it could have been a lot worse. So find language that can extol the mercy of God in our lives when He does one little fraction of kindness innocent through us. That's my alternative to self-esteem. Grace esteem, I like to call it. Cultivating the esteem of grace in all of its little dimensions in our lives. That's my counseling approach. Is if somebody thinks they're too useless to go on in life, I don't generally try to find some feature in which they can boast, but I can point out so many evidences of grace in their lives, that God is at work in their lives. And He's the kind of God who really doesn't need much to work with. Witness David Brainerd in order to get on with them. So that's an approach that I think he would point us toward. I think the biggest lesson he has for us along those lines is God-centeredness. An utter, absolute passion to keep God at the center of everything. Now, the danger of that is that people, some Puritan types, don't have the theological sophistication or depth to learn how to value the creation for God's sake. They feel that any delight in things is idolatry. And in my book, Desiring God, I wrestled with that in the chapter on prayer as well as I know how to wrestle with it, and got my answer from Augustine, who prayed, Father, he loves thee too little who loves anything together with thee, which he loves not for thy sake. Now what that does is free you to obey 2 Timothy or 1 Timothy 4, where all these things were freely given to you to enjoy. Marriage, bed, and food is the specifics in view. Sex and eating are not to be demeaned. And so when I say God-centeredness, what I mean is not that all you think about is God, but that you think of all in relation to God. Food, sex, children, shoes, health, sunshine, broken clutches, and everything else. Everything relates to God. And what I just cry for in my people is that they would be just God-besotted. I love that phrase that Mark Knoll used in describing Jonathan Edwards. He was a God-besotted person. Anything he touched had to do with God. Those are two or three things that come to my mind.
In answer to the question about Princeton, that's my alma mater. The last evangelical president was the turn of this century. Within 3 decades, God raised up an independent evangelical fellowship on the campus. It's now in almost its 60th year. It is run by Princeton alumni, so the university has to tolerate it. As a matter of fact, they, through a controversy, they had to give us a letterhead of the university to use on our seal to use on the letterhead. And one man led that fellowship for 50 years, and through him probably 75 to 100 men are ministry and missions today. And they believe that God has heard the prayers of the church.
I bet.
In that thorn in the flesh of the Princeton administration today, that God is working.
That's a thrilling story. All the historical implications of faithfulness in prayer. Who knows what will come in 100 years? That was Tom's point. Ken Naw, the Burma fellow. Another 3 or 4 minutes here. Go ahead, Tom.
I was inspired by what you said about Brainerd, and I'm wondering, do you have a list, or you know of a list, like either in-print or out-of-print books on missionary lives? Does anybody bother to compile a list to read?
We have not bothered to compile a list of biographies, but a good... What? Go ahead, Tom. For each one.
That book of history of missions, 5 pages per missionary, all
can I make that's exactly what I would have said. So that's the first thing to say. And